The wind had been restless all evening, tugging at the trees, sweeping dry leaves across the narrow street that wound down the hill. The orange glow of the street lamps flickered in the mist, and for a moment I thought the world had been reduced to just that. The hum of the air, the faint hiss of rain, and the laughter of children echoing from somewhere below. I had never cared much for Halloween, but this year, for reasons I couldn't name, I'd bought a bag of candy, lit a small pumpkin on the porch, and decided to wait. It felt like something I was supposed to do. By the time the first knock came, the sky had turned the color of iron. I hesitated, the sound echoing through the house sharper than it should have been. When I opened the door, 3 small figures stood there. One was a witch, one a ghost, one a tiny vampire with a plastic cape that fluttered in the wind. "Trick or treat!" they shouted. I smiled, reached into the bowl, and handed them chocolate bars. Their laughter trailed off as they disappeared into the fog. I shut the door and leaned against it for a second. The warmth inside felt heavier than before, thick, almost stale. I turned off the hallway light to ease the glare, but the shadows seemed to breathe. It was nothing, I told myself. Just the contrast between the porch and the dim interior. An hour passed. The knocks came sporadically. Some kids wore bright store-bought masks. Others had improvised paper ones that already sagged with rain. A mother waved from the street at one point, her flashlight slicing briefly across my windows. The world outside was still human, still harmless. I almost convinced myself that this year's Halloween would be ordinary. But then, at around 9:30, the doorbell rang again. Once, twice, then stopped. No voices followed. I waited, thinking maybe they'd run off, but a strange stillness pressed against the house. I could hear the wind outside, but faintly, as if muffled by something thicker than glass. I took the bowl again, my fingers trembling slightly, and went to the door. When I opened it, a single figure stood there, tall, still, covered in a black cloak that clung to the skin like wet fabric. The mask was pale, almost bone white with no expression carved onto it. Just 2 empty holes where eyes should have been. "Trick or treat," the voice said. It wasn't the voice of a child, nor of an adult. It was both. 2 tones, one whispering inside the other, perfectly aligned. I froze, unsure whether to laugh or to slam the door. Instead, I said the first thing that came to mind. "Wait here. I'll get you some candy." The figure didn't move. I turned and walked quickly to the kitchen. My reflection in the glass cabinet startled me. I looked pale, drained. I grabbed the jar of candy and went back to the door. But the porch was empty. Rain fell steadily, dripping from the roof, but the steps were clean. No footprints. The night outside looked thicker now, the mist rising high enough to swallow the nearest streetlight. I closed the door slowly, locking it this time. The air inside had changed. I could smell something faint, metallic, like rust or blood. The pumpkin on the porch still flickered through the window, its glow shaking slightly. I tried to focus on it, but the reflection in the glass kept catching my attention. Behind me, faint shapes seemed to move, vanishing when I turned. I told myself it was nerves, the wind, the rain, the same excuses everyone makes before the first real thing happens. Then the power went out. A pop, a sigh, then darkness. I waited, expecting the hum of the refrigerator to return, but the silence stretched on. I found a flashlight in the drawer and clicked it on. The narrow beam sliced through the room, dust floating lazily within it. The clock had stopped. Even the rain seemed quieter. I aimed the light toward the hallway. Something hung there, a black fabric draped across the bottom of the stairs. The same cloak. My throat tightened. I hadn't left the door open long enough for anyone to enter. But the cloak was there, glistening faintly, as if freshly soaked. I reached out with the beam, following the folds. At the edge of it, near the first step, the wood was smeared with dark streaks. Not red, not brown, something in between. The flashlight flickered, and then, from above, a sound. Not footsteps exactly, more like something dragging itself along the floor, slow and deliberate, a faint scrape of nails against wood. I raised the light toward the landing. The beam trembled in my hand. There was nothing visible, just shadows stretching unnaturally far. Then, movement. A shape leaned slightly forward, just enough for me to see the curve of that white mask again. It stared down the stairs, motionless. I couldn't move. My legs had turned to stone. For a long time, neither of us did anything. The air between us so heavy it felt like a third presence. Finally, I whispered, "Who are you?" The figure tilted its head, and then every light in the house, every lamp, every electronic blink flashed once, violently bright, before going black again. The flashlight died too. For a moment, there was absolute nothingness. Then came the breathing. Not mine, not above me, around me. The air itself was breathing, expanding and collapsing, slow and wet. I stumbled backward, hands outstretched. My palm brushed something cold and smooth, a shoulder. I swung the light instinctively. It flickered once, and there it was, inches from my face. Mask gone. No human skin beneath. The flesh was thin, gray, and veined like cracked marble. The eyes were pits of shadow, pulsing faintly, and when it opened its mouth, there was no tongue, no teeth, just depth. Black, endless depth. It leaned closer. The smell was wrong. Earth, decay, and something old, like rain on stone. Its breath didn't warm my skin. It pulled the air out of me. "I didn't come for candy," it said. The voice was inside my head, vibrating through bone. "I came for your place." I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My chest burned, my vision shook. The flashlight clattered to the floor, its beam spinning wildly across the walls, revealing things that shouldn't have been there. Shapes moving, curling, forming faces for half a second before dissolving. The whole house seemed alive, breathing in rhythm with the creature's whisper. Then, silence again. I was on my knees. The thing was gone. The air was still, but the house wasn't the same. The walls were wrong. The pictures hung in different places. The hallway stretched farther than it should. I got up slowly, trying to find the front door, but the layout had shifted. The kitchen door now opened into a hallway I didn't recognize. "Stop," I whispered to myself. "You're dreaming. The sound of children's laughter cut me off, muffled, distant. I ran toward it, thinking maybe I could find the door again. Maybe it was just the wind outside. But the sound didn't come from outside. It came from the basement. I froze at the top of the stairs. A soft orange glow flickered below, like candlelight. I didn't remember lighting anything down there. I told myself to leave, to climb a window, to run, but my feet moved on their own, step by step. down into the warmth. The air grew heavier with each step. I could smell something sweet now, like burnt sugar, mixed with rot. At the bottom of the stairs, 5 small figures stood in a circle. Children, their costumes soaked, dripping. They were whispering something I couldn't understand. Their faces were pale, their masks melting slowly like wax. One of them turned toward me. "Trick or treat," it said. But its mouth didn't move. The flashlight flickered again. The children were gone. The basement was empty, bare walls, no candles, no sound. When I turned back to the stairs, someone was standing at the top, the tall one, cloakless, still, watching. "I came for your place," the voice repeated. The walls began to contract. The ceiling pressed down. I stumbled backward, tripping over nothing, my lungs collapsing. The creature stepped closer, and for the first time, I understood what it meant. My body wasn't fading this time. It was becoming me. My bones cracked, my vision blurred, and I felt the world tilt. The last thing I saw was my own face, standing where I had been, looking down at me with calm, empty eyes. Then darkness. I woke up outside. The air was cool, the night alive again with distant laughter. I looked at my hands. They weren't my hands. Too small. My vision too low. A child's height, a child's breath. Across the street, I saw my house. A figure stood in the doorway, smiling, handing out candy to a group of kids. "Happy Halloween," it said cheerfully. And when it looked up, I realized it wasn't wearing a mask. It was wearing me.